What's going on, y'all? My name is Jay Faith, and this is the Right Mind Wednesdays podcast where we sit down, make connections through conversations, and just help people grow with their everyday lives, just sharing experiences and all that fun stuff. Make sure you follow us, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, SoundCloud, all those wonderful platforms, Instagram, Facebook. I know you're bound to have at least one of those, so make sure you just check us out, follow us, and show some love, hopefully learn something through one of these amazing guests that we've had so far. But for today, let's get into our next podcast, and I'll let the man introduce himself. What's going on, man? How you doing?
What's up, man? I'm Zach Achorn. I'm from SelfMade out in Quincy, Massachusetts. We started as an art collective, and now we have a bunch of different things that we dabble in, I guess you could say.
Okay.
My specialty, though, as an artist is definitely screen printing. So I handle a lot of local screen printing stuff around here when it comes to clothing for brands, businesses, all types of stuff. And I also travel around the country and sometimes outside the country doing trainings, installs, and a bunch of screen printing stuff.
Oh, that's dope. So there's definitely way more into it. Cause I remember when you told me, like, you're like, hey, like I'll be out of the state for this week, and then I'll be back, but then I'll be gone like the following. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, what in the world could he possibly be doing? Well, out there, but I mean, it could be branding, it could be a million and one things, but now I get a better idea of.
Yeah, it's funny because when people have a conversation with me about screen printing, one, they walk away like being like, damn, this kid's obsessed with it. And then the other thing they walk away with is like, wow, this industry is way bigger and deeper than like I ever imagined. You know? So it's always interesting to see the perspective of the industry change after one conversation.
Yeah, for real. Like, I'm even interested because, like, obviously I have such a skewed view, I guess, because I just see from behind the scenes, when I get like a t-shirt made or something, I just, I'm getting like a Right Mind t-shirt made, and it's just like, oh, okay, cool, like just screen print it and send it to me. Okay, cool. Like, but I'm sure there's like definitely way more of a process that goes into it than most people would understand.
And you're kind of lucky, I'm not gonna lie, because now I feel like I'm like cursed in the sense that like I look at every shirt and like I have to fully dissect it,
judge it completely.
Yeah, it was interesting. I like there was another podcast and the topic was like talking about how like most screen printers, especially like ones that have been in it for a while, always just wear blank shirts because it's like we don't want to get like just analyzed or whatever.
Right.
But
which is why you have the black shirt on today, because you're like, I just can't look down.
I'm just like looking at it. I'm like, I don't even have to worry what I have on. I can absorb everything. But yeah, it's funny. Like I'll go into stores now and like I'm just touching prints. Like, I'm not even like I'm looking at the store, but I'm just like feeling things. But yeah, there's so much that goes into it, and it's crazy because like even in the past year, like my goal in the start of this year was like, hey, I want to get myself more out there in the industry, travel more, go to more places and stuff. Yeah. And since I've done that, like it's really just like taken off with the traveling aspect. But it's crazy how much I've learned, and that's the coolest thing is like when I'm traveling, I'm going to other places, meeting new people, like I'm getting exposed to so many different new techniques and ways of going about things. And it's crazy because it just shows you like how deep you can go with it.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
It also gives you like a really cool perspective and just like the road to success in like anything, in the aspect of like, you could take something as simple as like selling lemonade, right? Yeah. But it's like, how big are you going to take it? You're going to get it so you have like your own brand and like you're in stores and stuff like that. Or you still sell them for 25 cents on the corner, and it's cool because like you, like in what I'm doing, like I'm seeing that you can apply that like to anything you do. I'm just doing it with screen printing.
Okay. Yeah, that's like super interesting. Like, again, like even with my job my 9 to 5, if you will, it's kind of the same thing because I do a lot of work at home, my home base at, my job, but then I do get the same opportunities to travel and stuff like that. And I get what you're saying is being around like-minded people and people that do kind of similar things that you do, you always just pick up like those little nuggets and those things that you're just like, oh, I'm taking that back with me. I don't even care what you say. Like, this is mine. And, I'll make it my own. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying. It's dope.
Yeah, it's cool too because I feel like with everything else that we have going on with like development, especially YouTube, like I feel like YouTube's been one of the biggest tools in learning development over the past few years.
For sure.
It's interesting because you're seeing like a whole new wave of like knowledge being passed on, which in the like past was always like, no, this is mine. Like, let me keep this knowledge, you know? But it's cool because you see more people putting it out there to the point where it's like, that's almost even like a thing that people want to aspire to be now, is like a master of something, so that they can be like the next speaker of how it's done, you know? So it's really cool.
Yeah. So they're like, just like deliberately just trying to find information so that they can gain everything so that they can then pass it on to somebody else.
Yeah,
that's dope.
Yeah, that's why I love sports, because like sports kind of gives you the first like exposure of the full circle. You know what I mean? Like, you start out as a kid, you like get exposed to sports. You know, you fall in love with one sport or whatever the case is that you really want to take it to the next level, and then like the full process of it is like going as far as you can with it as an athlete, and then what's the next level? Most people go to coaching, and then if you have to be really good at coaching, well, then you become a GM, and then if you become a GM, you become an owner, you know? And it's the same thing in like everything you do, you know? It's like, how far are you going to take it upon the level, you know? Like, everybody wants to be Tom Brady at some point, but at the end of the day, like, the true aspiration is to be Robert Kraft, because he runs the whole show.
Exactly. And it's like one of those things, even as a Tom Brady, like, once you retire, like, what is your next step? Where do you go from there? So, you know, I've heard a bunch of people, you know, because obviously he's talking about retirement and stuff, and they're like, dude, he should just do broadcasting, like just broadcast. Like, that's your next, the typical next step for any retired football player. Yeah.
And that's the cool thing, is like, going back to what I was saying, is like, everybody now looks at it as like, you know, it's an aspiration to become somebody that can master something and pass it on. It's cool because I feel like not only just the industries I'm in with arts and screen printing specifically, but like all industries like as a whole are getting more expanded, you know, in the sense of like, this is how much more you can do in this industry opposed to just the basic service aspect of it.
Yeah. Definitely. And it's like, it really is interesting to hear that. Because again, I'm so like unknowledgeable of these things, and then to just hear how expanded it's gone, far from just putting a shirt on a screen press and pulling it down. I mean, there's definitely an art to it, obviously. I've yet to even come close to figuring it out. I've tried like the Cricut irons-ons, and I'm like, I feel like such an amateur right now. And then I have you coming on, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to wear that shirt. I'm going to wear something different so I don't get fully judged.
No, that's a fire shirt, by the way. But I mean, it's for me, it's like I go back and forth both ways. You know, when I first started, like, I just wanted to be a clothing brand and be a designer. So like, I definitely can understand the heat transfer and all that stuff, because at the end of the day, I started there too. I just like immediately hated it, so I just moved on to screen printing. So, and then got exposed to how deep it really goes with screen printing, to the point where it's like, you see what some of the top tier brands are doing, like Nike, Adidas, and how they make their clothes, and you're just like mind blown as to like, wow, it's like, it can be as simple as a Cricut, but then like the reason why these top dogs are these top dogs is because they're doing like all this stuff. And you're like, wow, okay.
I saw like one of your time lapse videos. It was like, I think it had like screen presses all in like a circle, I think. And like, it was just going through, and like I just see the stacks of shirts going up, and I'm like, so that's what it's like. And I'm sure like you said with like Nike and those bigger brands, I'm like, I'm sure their process is just probably insane. Just as insane.
Those people are like, you could equivalent their processes, and like the way things are set up for them is like almost the way Amazon does fulfillment, in the sense like people jobs are very individualized to the point where it's like, somebody's job is literally just to keep putting ink in the screen, because the presses are going like all day long. So like, you don't really move, you just stand there, mix ink, and just keep putting it in the screen.
That's wild.
Where opposed to like on a smaller scale, it's like you have one person in a shop, you know, like our shop is a lot smaller. And then like even similar shops, you know, some shops are literally one person, you know, so it's like one person doing literally every step, you know? And it's crazy how deep it can go, to the point where it's like, no, there's one person that literally just handles this one step.
That's wild.
So it's crazy. So, and they just go to way bigger lengths, you know, but it all comes down to like what you want. Like, there was a really cool Instagram like audio thing going around, and it was like talking about like, you know, when you're getting something, it's like three ways. You know, you can get it like fast, cheap, and good, or whatever the case is.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But it's like you're never gonna get like you're never gonna get all three at the same time. You
No,
know? So
no,
and it's funny because like you see that so clear in the clothing garment. They call it like the garment decorating industry.
Makes sense.
But in that you see it so like clear as day because there's so much. Like that was the one thing that I recognized really quick is that like, believe it or not, there's really no competition in the industry. Like,
really?
Yeah, if you get higher and up, there's always going to be like certain tiers where it's like, yeah, this person wants this account and this person wants this account too, because it gets to a point where some of these accounts can literally fund your whole shop. Like one account, like one clothing account will just take care of your whole shop and buy you out for like a few years.
Right.
So it's like, sometimes you're trying to get to that level where it's like, all right, I just want to land this one account. This other person wants the same account too because they don't want to have to worry about jobs all year.
Right,
you know?
right.
But for the most part, there's so much of it where even if like you didn't land that account, there's probably another one like right down the street.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, because like that's the crazy thing is like, you know, T-shirts have always been around. They're always like gonna be around, in my opinion. And
yeah,
they're gonna have to get printed some way. You know,
right,
the industry is definitely developing a ton where like it's making the process a lot easier and more efficient for, especially for bigger shops.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, everybody wants a favorite T-shirt. So.
Right. It's the easiest. I think it's one of the easiest ways to brand yourself because, so like you said, like it's never going to go away because whether you're a creator or whatever you're doing that your business, like it's literally a walking billboard.
Hell yeah.
So like I don't see it going anywhere. It'd be crazy. There's a lot of mediums that probably could disappear, but screen printing shirts, I mean, we got to wear clothes. So
yeah, I mean, personally, I would like to see it. I'm a big believer. I've been saying this for a while now. Is like, so we just seen over the past, like I would say, like 5 to 10 years, the acceptance and the admiration for graffiti and murals happen with arts and stuff.
Yeah,
which I'm so happy for.
Same.
I think we're going to start seeing that within the next 5 years, for the next 5 to 10 years with screen printing. In the sense that, like, you saw this really big wave where once graffiti and murals started getting accepted, more people became open about it, wanting to do it, got involved in it, stuff like that. I think it's going to be the same thing with screen printing. I just think it might even be bigger, just because so many people can use it, you know? And that's the cool thing is, like, you know, with the graffiti and the murals, it's pretty straight up. You know, you're painting a wall, you're painting a piece, whatever the case is, you know. Maybe you're painting like another object. But with the screen printing, it's like you said, it's like one of the #1 branding techniques, you know. So anybody can do it, and we're already seeing it with the crickets and stuff like that. But if we could make screen printing more accessible and easier for people to pick up, I think that would be a huge wave that we'll see. One of the things I want to do is I've been working on this nonprofit called the Print Plugs. And and it's pretty much just like strictly dedicated to screen printing, building screen printers up from like the youth age to older, all the way up to like, you know, tweaking big shops to make them more efficient by helping them with different things. But the training aspect is something that we really want to help with, because we feel like with the training alone, and then if we can add like different centers where people could go on their own time and screen print, you'd see a huge increase in people getting involved into the industry and helping it grow too, which is cool.
Just expand the crap out of it. Yeah, it's like one of those things. I was talking with Lone, who was a guest on the podcast a little while back. He was talking about music engineering, and we kind of had the same agreement, and I feel like it's the same for screen printing. In my example and just my experience, because like, so I went to a technical high school, and so obviously you have your different shops, and one of them was graphics, which was actually one that my wife took, and she had screen printing in there. But unless you go to like a technical high school, like I feel like at least in my experience, the likelihood before you actually get to experience screen printing is so far beyond that, that it's like, it's one of those marketable skills that like you can get so much sooner and like advance your career way sooner than having to go through the muck and the mud to get to that point. You know, it's just like what I do with this podcast, as we were talking off air about like, you know, what, you know, kind of came up with it and stuff like that. It's like, I want to give somebody the tools, and you're doing the exact same thing with screen printing. I want to give somebody the tools so that it's like one of the, like I always say, if I knew then what I know now type of deals. So it's like, if you can give the now to the then earlier, it's going to make things so much easier, especially if people are passionate about those kind of things.
Hell yeah. Yeah. And that was just like a growing thing, you know, and like I had to see it, you know, especially with the screen printing, I had to be like, all right, like, what's the disconnect? Because there are a ton of vocational schools that do offer screen printing, which I think is super cool.
Right.
But the downside to that too is like they're exposing screen printing to kids, but they're also not showing how deep it goes. So like for a lot of the co-op or the work aspect of it, they're going into screen printing shops, and like all they're really learning about that is like the jobs that need to get done for that screen printing shop.
Okay.
Opposed to like learning the depth of like how far you could take it, you know, like all right, knowing you could, you know, be a screen printer at night, for example, you know, do a 9 to 5, and like most of us start, and like just start screen printing at night. But like that could be a substantial amount of income that you're bringing in just by hustling at night and stuff like that. You know, there's so many different levels to go to it, having your own clothing brand, all these different things, you know. But unless that's being taught to you at a younger age, you're really not going to understand that until you're older. And that's why you hear so many people coming back, especially nowadays, being like, oh, I took this in high school, or like, oh, I did this in high school. And I'm like, damn, man, lucky you. Like, I taught myself on YouTube.
It's like, right?
Yeah, so.
And they got just like kind of the building blocks, and now like you're like, dude, you just got like the table scraps of what is really, this is what this is really about.
Yeah, and I guess that's a cool thing too about like, you know, teaching yourself or becoming, you know, self-made, as I like to say, which is becoming the best version of yourself. Not necessarily doing it all yourself, just becoming the best version. And like that was one thing that I learned when we started building like the gym for artists, you know, and like with those platforms. So now we're starting our second one, but like with the first one, we learned a ton about like, you know, how does like somebody develop a career, you know? And like that's one thing I feel like, especially in the art world, that like doesn't get focused on enough. You know, like everybody wants to be a big artist, or they want to blow up. Doesn't matter what your genre is. But if you were to sit down with them and ask them, yo, what's your roadmap? What's your 3 to 5? Like whatever, like plan. A lot of them have no idea.
There's no clue.
You know, and like that's why with the gym for artists, it was one of those things we always said, like, you know, it's going to expose you to yourself, you know. Even with me, like when I first started and the gym for artists started to develop, because originally it was just like our studio. Like we were just like, yo, this is our private studio for self-made. And then it started organically growing into something that was more of a community space. But like with it, it was like even myself, you know, like my artist name is the Can of Corn. And a lot of that started like for 2 reasons. 1, because of spray painting, and 2, because like I wanted it to be in like all different types of art, like corn is in food, you know, at the time. So, But anyways, with that is like, for the longest time, I wanted to be a spray paint artist, you know, and then the gym for artists exposed me to being like, all right, well, dude, how are you going to make a career off that? Because you're not having enough murals right now that are paid where it's like you're going to actually build a business, a sustainable lifestyle off this or anything like that. But then screen printing was always around where it was like, oh, yeah, we need some money for rent or whatever the case is. Like, let's bust out these jobs and then we'll be good, and then we can go back to spray painting, you know? But over time, it made me realize, like, all right, I need a plan with this, you know? And then once I started to do that on building the plan, that was when I got exposed to really how deep the industry goes. And going back to that is like just in whatever you are, figuring out how deep you can really take it, you know? Because sometimes it doesn't have to be like the biggest pinnacle, like top dog. It could just be like another top dog, same industry, you just have a different specialty.
Right.
That's cool.
Right, for sure. So what was the initial like drive to do screen printing? Was it from the artist side of things, or was it just like a love of like just seeing t-shirts and I don't say that to sound like corny or to like diss it.
That's, you know how it started. Dude, that's how it started. It's literally a love of doing t-shirts and then a love of Andy Warhol. So like I grew up being obsessed with Andy Warhol because like to me, he was like the only example that I learned about that like gave me like exposure as to being like how you could be a successful artist, living artist, you know. Before then it was like, oh, if you want to be, most artists don't become successful until they're dead. You know, that was a very common thing that was known, you know. So with him, it was like, yo, he was the main guy, like especially back in that time, like he was a big dude in New York City and like in the whole industry, like he was doing stuff for the Olympics, all different types of stuff. So, but he screen printed everything for the most part. Like everybody thinks it was painted, but it was all screen printed. Like, I would say like 95% of it was screen printed. And so with that, I got exposed to that with him, but like it really came down to when I started making clothing, I did the heat press route like immediately, and the first job I did was horrible. And it was funny because now when I look back on it, and I know exactly why I went horrible now, which is so funny because I just didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, all right, yeah, I could have done that. But once that happened, I was like, I'm not doing this. And then immediately I was like, all right, I got to figure a better way. I played around and made an order with like custom ink, which now I'm like, now that I know how custom ink runs, I'm like, all right, I could have just gone locally. But anyways,
that's good to know.
Yeah. Anyways, I probably shouldn't have said that.
No, it's all good. Shout out to Custom Ink. Much love.
Shout out Custom Ink. You laid the groundwork. I will say that. But anyways. I had an order from them, and to be honest, like the reason why I have no problem saying that though is because like the first order I got was horrible. You know, I had a very boxy logo, so in screen printing, like boxy logos and straight logos and like lines and stuff are the, like a printer's like, it's like the devil to a printer in the sense like,
it's like tattoos.
You're gonna go crazy, bro, because like you got to get it perfect. So with that, it was very obvious that some of the first shirts that I ordered were crooked, and I was like, bro, like what? This is supposed to be my first shirts. Yeah, like all that stuff. So after that, at the time I was doing, to get SelfMade started, like to buy the screen printing equipment and all that stuff, I was doing custom sneakers at the time. So I was restoring sneakers and doing customization. So I was doing anything from like Jordans all the way to like custom boxing shoes for boxers. So I was able to save up like a ton of cash because there's really no overhead with doing that stuff. I could do it in my living room or in my room. So we were able to save up a ton of cash. We got a studio, which was like our first studio. It was just a garage. And then that was when I was kind of like, yo, I'm going to start buying this equipment. And then like I remember before I bought any screen printing equipment, I bought a Cricut like everybody else does, you know, except the only thing is I didn't want to do the vinyl thing with the Cricut. I looked at it as like, all right, I was already doing mad stencils at the time with X-Acto knives and all that stuff. So I'd seen a YouTube video where it was like, you know, technically you could screen print with those same stencils. So I was like, all right, I want to try this. But then I was also like, you know, I know nobody's perfect with an X-Acto knife. You know, you can get pretty close. There's some people that are crazy, but like it's human error. Let's be real, you know?
Exactly.
So,
let's call a spade a spade.
So I looked at it as like, all right, if I get this Cricut though, I could use it to cut stencils with cardstock. So it would just cut out the negative positive space, and I can use that as a stencil. I can use it for spray painting, and then I could use it also to potentially with screen printing. So like that's what we did. First time I just like cut that out, figured out a technique that would work, and we tried it out, and it was ass. It looked horrible, but I was super proud of it. I still got it today. I got it framed.
Oh, of course, you have to. You got to remember that.
I'm like, yo, this is awesome. But that's just how I got into it. And then from there, it was just like I said, the first like 2-3 years. That's why I like when I talk to people about it, like I've been exposed and like doing screen printing roughly for like between, I would say, you know, 8 to 10 years, but I say like I've been professionally screen printing for 8 years, because it's like at the first 2 years, like I was saying, I wasn't fully bought in on it. I was just like, this is cool. I'm gonna go through the journey. Like, oh, I'm learning this stuff. Like I remember thinking back, like especially the way we train people now with screen printing on getting them from like start to a printer with knowing nothing. And I'm like, damn, my process was so slow.
Exactly.
It was so slow. Like the rate I was learning things was like just funny to think back on, because I was doing it on my own. Like, and the only other person I had doing with me was like Cody, you know, and like, so him and I would just go back and forth, and like we were trying to figure it out. And but it would take us longer compared to like now when we teach people. It's like, damn, they have no idea like what we were doing back in the day. So and then it just kept going, you know. Like I remember it was when 2020 happened and COVID. That really just like set a fire under our ass. Like right before it all happened, we had already committed to opening a store and doing stuff. So then since then we were just like, all right, we're gonna take off. And luckily, COVID didn't really slow us down. It helped us because more people had time for brands. So it was like more orders came in. And then, we just took off from there. It was one of those things where we just kept getting exposed to more screen printing opportunities, especially locally, where it was like other shops needed help. They needed printers, whatever the case is. And we would just be there to help them, you know, or plug them in like we say now with print plugs, you know. But yeah, so it just kept getting deeper and deeper and deeper.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, that's what I took from 2020 as well, is it was that opportunity from the artist side to be like, okay, everything's kind of quiet right now. How can I build myself up and build this brand up so that when everything opens back up, I'm already ready. I'm not sitting on the sidelines and then going, okay, everything's open. All right, now it's time to get back to work. Yeah. So it's like, you know, being able to be ready as you guys were to help all these other brands out. Like, you know, it just set people up for a lot of success.
Oh yeah, and it's all about community, because like at the end of the day, it goes both ways. You know, as much as we were able to help them, they helped us. You know, we wouldn't be able to have gotten through all that, and especially through COVID, and even now, you know, if it wasn't for like our clients, our customers, and you know, just the people that support what we do. You know, especially my team. Like I always say, like, you know, our clients, they're huge, they're a big part of it, but the team is number one. You know, like, I can work as hard as I want, Cody can work as hard as he wants, and like it goes down the list. But like at the end of the day, unless we're working together, like there's no way we can handle it all, especially through the growing process. You know, those were certain things that we had to learn about, where it was like building it too big too fast, and then figuring out how to handle it all, and then having to downsize, and then all different types of stuff.
Right. So, instead of just doing it right the first time, you know, growing together, putting in the steps that you need to correctly so that you don't have to take those steps backwards and then be like, okay, like we had to fall back a little bit. All right, now, you know, how do we maneuver to go those extra 5 steps that we maybe necessarily didn't have to, but because we took the wrong steps, now we got to fix it.
Hell yeah. And that's what we want to help out with the most, is like whether it's the screen printing side, you know, it's the print plug side with other printers and print shops and stuff like that, or even the artistry side with like the Gym for Artists. You know, we're just trying to like give people a platform or give people some direction to make it more direct route for them, you know, because for us, it was one of those things where, you know, whether it was by choice or just by situation, a lot of the stuff we did have to learn through trial and error and just like going through it. But like we see it at this point as like it only grows everybody if people succeed. Yeah. So if there's any way we can help with that, we're definitely here for it.
For sure. I mean, like that's one of the biggest things that I've seen within the within the past, like maybe I'd probably say 5 years, like beginning in the early year one of that 5 years, is like a stronger, and I don't know if COVID had an effect with that and just the community side of things, at least on the creative side, is seeing a lot of creatives really supporting and working together versus that whole separation that you used to see. Again, speaking from a musical side, it was always like, you know, me, I have to keep all the knowledge, I have to rise up, you have to stay down, type of thing. And now, again, on the creative side, I'm seeing so much more of people like, this is what I know, you're below me, here's what you need to do. Versus you're below me, oh, you can stay down there and you can figure it out like I did. And now it's more like you guys have all been doing, like, hey, come on up with us, like let's build this brand, let's build this community together versus that separation.
And it's funny because I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's definitely going in that direction finally. Because I feel like that's been, especially Boston's art scene, that's been our biggest downfall in Massachusetts and Boston and all that stuff, is the individual, like how individually we work and stuff like that. But yeah, that's the biggest thing, you know, and I'm glad it's starting to happen, because I think it's people just understanding, like, you know, the community aspect will take us further opposed to trying to do it all on your own, because that was one thing that we always pushed, especially, you know, with the support local artist movement or the Gym for Artists, is like, you know, when you're coming together and you're supporting each other, because like when we started the support local artist movement, most people thought it was like getting like non-artists to support artists. It was really just getting artists to support each other. You know, because when you think about how big the artistry network is in all genres, when we all come together, it's bigger than people that aren't artists. you know. So if we can all come together and support each other, it's huge. So when you're starting to see that, it's cool because, you know, people are starting to understand, okay, we can do collaboratives together, stuff like that. I've said this before where it's like, it's funny because music's one of the only things where you really see features as a common thing. But if you were to feature a ton of dope artists in a bunch of different genres, you'd see some of the best artwork you've ever seen in your life.
Right.
You know? So it's cool to start seeing people get to that. I think the other thing that COVID helped with is people realizing how much expression was needed. You know, like it's such a good thing mentally and for your soul, body, mind, all that stuff. That I think it's cool because people are appreciating it more. You know, because one thing that I feel like a lot of people complained about it, especially artists that were like already doing their thing or trying to grow a career and stuff. I feel like some of them got kind of salty because they were like, damn, well now everybody's painting or everybody's making music and everybody's making beats or doing whatever because they had all this time in their crib in COVID, right?
Yep.
But it's like, you know, that's one of the things where it's like, ask yourself a question, like, are you really worried about that? Because if you've been doing it or you've been in your bag for a while, it's like, why are you worried about somebody that's just starting? You know, they're still gonna have to go through all those trials and tribulations that you have to go, you know?
Yeah.
But the other thing too is like with that, you got to look at it as like, all right, like what's stopping you? You know, because like for the longest time, like now you had your little advantages was what you would go the extra step, but now people are changing the game to where it's like, no, nobody, like anybody can do it, you know? So it draws that question is like, how far do you really want to take it? Because you're going to be the only one that can determine that, because anybody's going to express themselves now. It's just a level of that. But at the same time, like I said, there's always two sides to it. It does create appreciation, you know, because, you know, you can appreciate one. I feel like people just getting started have more appreciation for artists. And I think that's why we're seeing it too, is because it's like, holy crap, like I just made this song and like I really thought it was good, or this painting or whatever the case is, this t-shirt, and you're like, I really thought this was dope, but then I saw this dude who's been doing it for a while and his shit is nasty, like it's on tight, like he hits every bar right when the beat's supposed to, like this, like all his lines are super tight, like damn, there's no errors on that print, you know? And so I feel like the cool thing about that is that appreciation side like creates that support side, which is awesome. And then at the same time, you know, I feel like, and I'm hoping more people do this, is they also look at that as like, yo, you should have more appreciation for yourself, you know, because I feel like especially in Massachusetts and Boston, like we're saying, it's like, all right, you see somebody, they just did like whatever the case is, like paintings, like a lot of painters got really mad over COVID because like everybody was painting in their living room.
We had nothing else to do.
Exactly. And it's like everybody was like, yo, I just painted this dog at my house while I was watching a movie, and like they get like a bunch of likes, and then you have like a painter that's been dedicating their life forever and they got like 3 likes and they're like, what the heck? You know? But it's like it goes, I saw that in all genres, but it's funny because it's like you gotta look at it too, is like appreciate the fact that you notice the difference. You know, like, all right, that they did a decent job with that dog, but if you were to do a dog right now, it's probably look like it's real. You could pet it, right? And it's like, have the appreciation for yourself to understand how far you are on your own journey, you know? Whereas like most people, especially like I was saying, is like their instinct is like, yo, what the heck? Or why this person? It's like, it's not that person. Like, don't worry about it.
Seriously. You probably just caught people on a good day again. And it was probably something new for their followers to just see, like, oh, I didn't know you could draw. I didn't know you could paint. Oh, that's so cool. You know, and again, nobody had anything to do. So, you know, it was either paint or what a lot of people did, just be on their phones because they had nothing else to do. So they were just scrolling through their timelines and saw, you know, a cool picture and was like, all right, cool.
Well, plus it's more relatable, you know, and that's one thing that I feel like, you know, I think we're seeing less of now since COVID is artists trying to be like more themselves and just relatable to their own people and stuff. Whereas versus like before, like don't get me wrong, like flexing is still people's favorite thing to do for some reason. But I feel like there's a lot more separation with the flexing before 2020 opposed to like now, where it's like, yo, I'm doing this too. Like, and this is my lifestyle, you know, because that's the thing is like COVID and like social media, especially like TikTok and Instagram, you know, it created celebrities that like they don't have these crazy lavish lifestyles. They just finally got their talents exposed. Yeah. And now they're getting that opportunity to like expose their talents. But like their lifestyle is like, yo, they wake up, they walk their dog, they have some Wheaties, you know, they go to yoga, like they go to their mom's crib, they say, what's up? Like, it's the same thing, you know? Yeah. So it's cool because I think like that's the thing too, is like, you know, artists for the longest time were trying to create this persona opposed to just being themselves. And now it's like, all right, you know, the top artists, in my opinion, are like just fully exposing themselves. There's nothing that they have to hide in their closet, you know, stuff like that. Or even if they do, they're just like, you know, I'm out here. You know, this is what I do. I eat the same thing for breakfast every day. You know, I run the same route, or, you know, whatever it is. I go to the same bar every Friday. I don't know. You know,
but it's just being real, though. Yeah. It's just being real, and then people being like, okay, like I get it. Yeah. You know, in a good way. You know, it's like, okay, like this person, you know, it's just being human and stop putting on, you know, the fake facade. And
how do you make yourself more relatable to people? You know, because that's the whole thing too, is like people buy into things that they want to relate to, or they relate to naturally. You know, so it's like if you have a lifestyle that's kind of relatable or it's obtainable, you know, you create and inspire people, because it's like, all right, you know, this person may look better than me, they may come off as smart than me, be doing more than me, right? But like, I also can't deny that every day when I look at their story, they're literally putting in the work every day. Right. You know, they're getting up, they're going to the gym, they're working out, they're eating right, like they're doing all those steps they need to in their career, you know? And it's cool because it shows like that the hard work and the consistency and the lifestyle is like what gets you to the success and stuff. So,
and it's also not just, you know, they have like lives, you know, like they go, you know, using me as an example, like you go to the gym, you have your 9 to 5, like, so it shows people that are aspiring to do whatever it is that they're trying to do, that it can be done and still, like, you know, maneuver through your everyday, your quote unquote everyday life and still chase after what it is that you're chasing after.
Yeah, I think honestly, like I'm at the point now where I've done a lot of different, you know, routines and stuff through all my lifestyles, and you know, I'm a big fan of the 9 to 5. You know, and I like, and the reason for that is because if you appreciate your 9 to 5 and understand that your day job supports your night job, that 9 to 5 makes your journey so much easier. Because like people don't realize how much your work like takes care of like your scheduling, your pays, like your insurance is taken care of. You know, you kind of know what you're gonna do for the next few months, unless you like schedule time off. But even then, you're scheduled out. You know, Whereas it's like that was like one of the biggest learning curves for me when I first like went full time. Like a while back, it was like, all right, what am I doing with my life? Because nobody is telling me, Zach, we need you to be here, we need you to do this, or whatever the case is. So the power of the 9 to 5 is huge, you know, because if you use it, it can give you a lot of structure, which helps you to motivate you to get to the next level too. And it allows you to be more comfortable. You know, like the one thing I feel like that trumps, or I shouldn't say trumps, but like kills a lot of dreams and stuff is when there's a lot of stress created around dreams. You know, like there's like dreams chasing shouldn't be stressful. Yeah, it should be hard and like trying, and like you should go through stuff, but like it should be a very appreciative process. You know, like one thing that I always tell people now, it was funny, I was on a conference call, Zoom call, whatever that we call them now, and it was funny because they stopped it and I was laughing, but like it led to like a comment where it was like the guy mediating the thing was like, Zach, are you ever not smiling? And it was like, I mean, I don't know, that maybe when I'm sleeping, but I probably still be smiling. I mean, at the end of the day, I go through a lot of shit that sucks, you know, but I also appreciate the shit that I have to go through that sucks, because it's like, you know, I could be doing a lot of other shit that sucks, you know. I could be like picking up trash on the side of the road. That's what I always say.
It could always be worse.
Yeah, so it's like with that, I mean, you can create the you know, not the comfort, but like this, I call it like a supporting structure with your 9 to 5. It can almost skyrocket you even faster, you know, because you have that hunger within you. You have that structure. You can plan further ahead because this is already planned out for you, you know. So, and it limits your time, you know, and like that's the thing that I always ask people, and like when they're asking me like, oh, what can I do, or how do I start and stuff like that. It's like, just look at your time, you know, especially if you have a 9 to 5. It's like, all right, I finish working at 5 o'clock. I go to the gym for an hour, or I go to the gym in the morning, whatever the case is. But you can literally break down like your free time.
Oh yeah,
from work,
100%,
and then be like, all right, am I using that the right way?
Right.
Because the results are in the like that. Like you're either gonna do the work during that time or you're not. You know.
Right.
And that's the tough thing is like, there's days you're tired. There's days you don't want to do that stuff. You know. There's days when your family needs you, or your friends want you to go out, your boy's getting married, or, you know, it's his birthday, and he's like, yo, let's hit the bar, man, or whatever the case is. Let's do it. And so it's tough, you know, figuring out, like, how can I get it to the next level? Because I always say success is super boring, you know, because it really is. Like, at the end of the day, it's boring, and, like, it's funny because I feel like as kids too, you'd see like the super smart kids that got like the perfect grades. They were always perfect on their like homework. Like they never did anything wrong and stuff like that. And you'd be like, oh, that kid's so lame. Like he's boring. Like he doesn't do anything, but he was the most successful kid in the class.
Right.
You know? And it's like going back to that is like, success is super boring. And anything you want to do, you can literally break it down. And it's funny because I'm always trying to restructure my plans. Like, all right, this is what I want to accomplish in these times. I'm a big believer in like, if you limit your time, you'll get more accomplished. You know, like Elon Musk, I think, is the one who says like, if you like the way we're wired is like, if you tell yourself you got 10 months to do something, you'll do it in 10 months. But if you tell yourself you have 10 minutes to do it, you'll do it in 10 minutes. Right. So with that, I'm always trying. Yeah, exactly. So I'm always trying to restructure. Like, all right, when can I do this? When can I do that? How fast can I do it and stuff? And you know, it's interesting because I can break it down to the exact second at this point from doing it for so long. Right. But it's a matter of like, am I going to stick to that? And half the time I do, and half the time it's like it's a 50-50 shot. So 75% of the time maybe we're sticking to it.
Right. But at least you have that game plan kind of in your head, in the back of your mind, and just like knowing, okay, this is where I'm going. This is kind of where I need to maneuver, how I need to maneuver, my time frame of everything. Yeah. You always hear people. I mean, sometimes it is true, you know, there's not enough time in the day, but I feel like sometimes it comes down to what you were saying is, how are you managing your time with the time that you have? Yeah. Like, even like for me, like, you know, doing my 9 to 5, I eat lunch at my desk. Yeah. And then my hour lunch, like I'm either working on music, I'm working on podcast stuff. So I utilize that hour because, you know, I'm married. I have to spend some family time. Yeah. You know, you got to do that. Yeah. Or, you know, if I can take that hour to knock out some graphics for the podcast, and then when I get home, I can focus on maybe working on music or something. Oh, yeah. Like, then I can do that. I don't have to worry about, you know, having the podcast in the back of my mind. I already took care of that during the day. Now I can set aside more time to do other things. Yeah,
which is the goal. I mean, that's the crazy thing is like, you know, I'm always saying this in the shop, you know, it's, believe it or not, you know, a great work environment makes you understand that when you show up every day, it's about performing better that day. Yeah. Because when you perform better that day, you create more time for improvement or more time for yourself, you know, and that goes directly into your life. You know, what you're just saying is you're very specific and planned out with how you spend your time. So then it allots you more time with what you want to do. Right. And that's the big goal. And like, that's the cool thing too, is like, I love that thing where the saying where it's like there's not enough time in the day, because I agree with that. I wish we had like 5 more hours.
Right,
you know?
just give me a little bit more time.
Maybe just round it to 30. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
It'd be cool, but it's funny because there's not enough time in the day. But the reason for that is because when you really understand that and you think about that, it forces you to figure out what your priorities are. Right. You know, and that, like, you're a great example of that, because you're understanding, like, all right, the priority for me is not to, like, take an hour lunch and be on my phone looking at my Instagram and scrolling on TikTok and all that stuff. It's like, I'm just going to eat my lunch now so I can be productive, because that's going to give me more down the road, you know? Exactly. And it's nuts because you can look at that at a bigger scale on, like, how your whole daily routine is. So I just, like, read a book called The 2-Second Lean, and it was, like, it's insane because this dude is, like, literally talking about, like, his whole life from, like, when he wakes up and has coffee, how does he make it more efficient on making and drinking his coffee? Yeah. To all the way to, like, when he starts his day with his team in his shop. And it's, like, insane because, like, it's super cool, but it's like, holy crap, like, you can really dial stuff in for to maximize efficiency. Yeah. So
that's how I like, honestly, maybe not on that far of a scale of a level, and not to compare myself to that person, but like, I definitely get to those points because, like, I'm such like a process person that I'm like, how can I make this process faster? Yeah. but also be efficient at the same time, where I'm not sacrificing anything, but I'm still getting the same output of what I want. You know, whether it's my gym workouts, whether it's, you know, what I'm doing at work, you know, how am I opening the building to make it faster so that I have more time to do other stuff that I need to do for my job. Like, it's a crazy thought process.
Oh, it's insane.
And it's exhausting sometimes because you're like, okay, I did this. Okay, but I can do this, and then I can do this and switch it and do it. And you're like,
and it never ends.
No,
not until we die. And that's my perspective.
Yeah,
at least it will end when we're in a casket and we don't have to think about it anymore.
Right,
but until that, it's always like, all right, what's next? What's next?
Even in our sleep, it's just constant.
Yeah, it's like, all right, how we can do it. And it's like, it's tough because it can be double-edged sword sometimes, right?
Yes,
then you get like so caught into like, all right, how much better can I make this? And it's like, dude, it's already good.
It's good. It's good.
Chill.
Just let it marinate. Let it just do its thing.
Yeah.
You're in a good process. It's fine.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
And there's levels too. It's like, it's funny because like right now I feel like I'm going through, I would say like the past 2 years, big time, especially after COVID and stuff. Like the main focus after COVID, like was, you know, developing a lifestyle, right, that works and makes everything better for me and allows me to grow, allows my companies to grow, all that stuff, right? 2021 I did that. 2022 it was one of those things where it was like, all right, now I'm gonna go on the road. How can I be consistent with that same lifestyle? And so that's like kind of the process that I'm going through right now, is figuring out how can I be consistent with that lifestyle day in and day out wherever I go. So it's like different now because I'm focusing on like different aspects of the consistency. So like for me right now, I'm trying to figure out like, all right, what can I stay consistent with so that I accomplish all those things that I need in that routine? But what also are things that like keep me consistently happy? Because that's the thing. You can do stuff to just to get it done and stuff, especially like working out, for example. That's one thing that I found is like, you know, you create certain like personas in your head as to how working out has to be, especially if you played sports as a kid. So it's so it's 100%. Like it's insane because it's like there's so many different types of way of working out, and like I feel like that is an example of like every like thing else in your life. There's so many different ways to go about it, but for the most part we were only exposed to like one or two growing up, so those are the only ways we know. So trying to like grow through those and figure out what works and stuff like that, you know, just trying all different things out, because like one thing that works for one person isn't going to necessarily work for the other person, you know? So like my boy, one of my boys is a perfect example. I hadn't seen him in a while. I saw him like a few months ago, and like dude was telling me he does like this crazy like stretching like body controlled workout. Dude looks freaking ripped, and this dude's been like lifting weights his whole life, you know. Always been like a big dude, but like now he's freaking like ripped out of his mind, looks in the best shape of his life. And it's just like, dude, I didn't even know that stuff existed, you know? It's like, what? So
there's people in my gym, because we all like show up at the same time and stuff, and they'll literally work out for like a half hour. Like they're in and they're out, and like I kind of like peep what they're doing. Like they're just jumping machine, and I'm looking at them. I'm like, they're ripped. They're like everything that I want to be. And I'm like, dude, like you just worked out for a half hour, and like you're maintaining this, and I'm working out for like an hour and a half, 2, and I'm like struggling. And I think it's like like you said, it's one of those things like when you only know certain things, and like I try to educate myself on you know, different fitness things and stuff like that, because again, you don't want to get too complacent with your workouts and yada yada yada. But you know, it's just like one of those things. I'm like, man, like what the heck? Like I am over here like sweating it away for an hour and a half, and you just come in and out in an hour and a half and
dude,
30
I give them
minutes
so much credit, because that's what I aspire to be, you know, because like we all do. Like at the end of the day, we're sitting here, we're talking about how to be more efficient, how to be better with our time. Right? They've mastered that in the gym, in my opinion, where they're just like, oh yeah, look at, he's gonna sit there. Like for me, for example, because I'll watch those people and like I'll try to keep up with them, but I'll take those breaks for a little while. I'll go get some extended water or whatever, but they're in like full training mode.
Just focus.
Like, they're just like, all right, and they just know like, all right, if I do this 1 second little hold extra, like I'm gonna feel the pump a million times better. And like that's just experience, you know. But
Right.
it's also like pushing yourself to get to that point where like, how can I be that more efficient? Just like we're talking about doing it in all other aspects of our lives.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I said, they've just mastered in that, which is super cool, you know.
Yeah.
And that's why I said I aspire to get to that point, because, you know, if I don't have to spend more than a half hour on working out a day, that would be awesome.
Right.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I always use the fitness reference with literally almost everything, because I feel like a fitness workout mentality can be literally applied to everything. You have to show up every single day.
Yep.
And work out. If you don't, you lose the skills, you lose the strength, and you have to switch it up. You have to learn something new, or else you get consistent. I mean, not consistent, complacent, and you stop seeing changes.
Yeah.
Like, you have to grow. You have to find ways to grow. And I feel like it's just applicable everywhere.
Yeah, and it's funny because I'm noticing that people are doing it on all different levels, and it's funny because I agree with you 110%. I do the same thing, especially with sports. Is like that's how I relate to people. Is like just explaining it to them in that sense.
Right.
But it's insane because I feel like, you know, what you were saying is so true. You know, showing up is the number one part of the battle, and until recently, because like everybody since 2020 realized, all right, we just have to show up and we're here. At least we're here, you know. Literally. It doesn't mean we're the best or we're killing it, but we're here.
Yeah.
It's created this like whole new wave of people that were showing up before are starting to understand, all right, it's not just about showing up anymore. Like I have to perform, you know, like, and that's the cool thing. And like, that goes back to what I was saying too about like my team and stuff is like, you know, we don't want to just create an employee environment where it's like I show up and get paid, you know, because nobody grows in that. You know, it's a matter of like, all right, I'm showing up and I want to do this better today, or I'm showing up and I want to push us to this new level today. And it's cool because we're starting to see that on like all different things where it's like people are pushing themselves to places they've never experienced or they've never been to. Yeah.
You have to. Like, I have people that I work with and they don't like anything new. It's like, I'm not trying it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you have to. Like, time is not stopping. You know, there's going to be a lot more things and you're going to end up getting stuck. Just stuck in your old ways. And, you know, I get that's how, you know, people can be. And obviously we say that about the older generation and stuff like that. You know, get an iPhone, you'll be fine. Like, and they're like, oh, I still have my flip phone type of thing. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't let yourself get stuck in that. I know it may look scary. It may look challenging, but, you know, there's ways to figure it out. You know, I'm not saying like if one person can do it, you can do it, because again, everybody's just different. But, you know, just at least give it a shot. Like dive into it and just, you know, see what you can make of it. Don't worry about what somebody else made of it. You can make something different and make it your own. Yeah,
you just got to be accountable to your own journey. You know, like for example, your story was super cool earlier when you were telling me. You know, it's like, actually, how'd you become a podcast, right? And it was like, I was not trying to become not at all. Like,
and here we are.
Yeah, here we are now. You know, we're crushing one. And it's like, but you understood and you held yourself accountable to like, if I want my platform to grow, I have to adapt. You know, and adapting was understanding like, all right, maybe, maybe the original way that I wanted to speak to people isn't going to be the most direct or most accepted way, you know? And that's the cool thing, you know, but you held yourself accountable to be like, all right, I have to do that. And like, we see it in the screen printing all the time where it's like, you'll go into shops and stuff like that. And it's like, they're just been doing the same thing for 20 years and it worked, you know, and it looks cool, but it's like, I could come in there and I could make a tweak and be like one little thing or make one suggestion and it makes it look a whole lot better. And they'll know it looks better and they'll still be like, hey, you know, this is how we do it, you know? And it's like
this is going to take your shop to the next level in a good way. It's not trying to change your brand. It's not trying to change who you are, but again, we're just in different times now, and this is going to take you to the next step, keep you competitive with everything. And some people are just like, nah.
But that's why I like the social media aspect, though, to be honest with you, because I feel like we're seeing a huge swing, you know. And so like when the internet first came out, you had like blogs, chat rooms, all that stuff, and everything was just so opinionated and opinion based, where it's like,
right.
you know, I'm gonna say all this different stuff, and this person's gonna say this different stuff, and you know, our stuff is going against each other, but you know, you can't prove me wrong, and I can't prove you can't like prove the other person wrong, you know. But now it's cool because, you know, we still have those chat rooms and stuff, which I still think are hilarious, because there's so many ways to skin a cat, and if we could just all accept that, like, the world would be better.
Yeah, that was what I was gonna say.
Yeah, but it's funny because with that, it's like, all right, now everything's being like brought to the limelight with like videos and like TikTok and all that stuff. So now it's just like, all right, who can do the damn thing? Because it's like, oh, if you want to say something or make it a suggestion, it's like, all right, prove it. You know, take a video, take a picture of it. Like, let's see how you actually got it that way.
Right.
Otherwise, it's like it didn't happen.
Yeah, seriously, it's like, right. You need that video proof just to know.
Oh man.
But I love seeing people's processes. Like,
Same.
you know, you could take art, for example, like just how people graffiti different ways, like their whole process of everything, or the way people make music is like completely different. And I've definitely grown to just be like, okay, your process is like dope. You know what I'm saying? And mine is different, and that's cool. Yeah. You know, and it's like cool to see different ways that people still can create the same exact thing that you put out in just a completely different way.
Oh, hell yeah. And
it's cool.
It's super cool. And there's always going to be levels to it. That's why, like, when I was saying earlier, is like, you know, when I was first really getting in my hands deep into screen printing, I felt some type of way about crickets and like people doing all that stuff, right? Yeah. But then like I had to, you know, have some self-reflection. It's like, dude, that's how I started. You know, maybe not exactly like that where I was successful or good at it, but like I like got exposed to it in a little same way. And then like now seeing the depth of the industry and how far you can take it, especially with how, depending on how successful you want to be with what your goal is.
Right.
Now I don't even like bat an eye to think about it, or when people or clients, because you'll have that all the time where it's like clients will be like, oh, I bought a Cricut and a heat press, you know, I'm not gonna see you, and then
killing it.
And then they're like, it's funny because when you understand it, you realize it's not competitive, or it's not really a worry, because you understand how much they can actually do with that. You know, like for example, you can have the Cricut and the heat press and stuff like that, but you know, that first order that comes across and you need to do like 100 of your shirts for an event or whatever the case is, you're not going to want to do that. You know, you're going to want to get them screen printed because it's going to be way more time efficient. Exactly. And on top of that, it's like, it's a lot less liability, you know, in the sense that like the quality is going to be on another level. You don't have to worry about the heat press coming off if you didn't do it right. All these different types of things. So so a lot of people have, you know, so it's like one of those things where it's like, that's what I mean is I appreciate when people are getting started off at that, because I understand, all right, if you want to take it so far, you know, you can take it to another level. You know, there's an amazing company out right now called Supercolor. Shout out Supercolor. And basically they make out some cool stuff where they do screen printed transfers for you, you know, so we do them too, but like not to the level they're doing them, where it's like they're doing full color images, super nice, and you can just heat print them, so you can order them, they'll send them to you, all that stuff, right? And even with that, you know, it's cool, and like you can't even get mad at that or like feel some type of way about it, because at the same time, you know, there's going to be a level to that, you know, like all right, you can order a ton of transfers from them, but like then think about the time that's going to take you to transfer all that stuff, you know, opposed to going back to the screen printing. So it's cool because, like I said, there's really no competition in it. It's just a matter of like you know, where you're at on the journey, you know, and that's the cool part, is like exposing that. You know, you could still be that cool person that's like literally just starting out, or you could be that cool person that's been here for a while, you know. And I think that's what we're seeing too with the social media, going back to how the videos really bringing it to the forefront, is like that person that's literally just starting and just did their third print or whatever, third heat transfer or whatever, is getting the same amount of love, if not more, than the person that's been in the industry for like 10 plus years. Right. You know, and that's the cool part. You know, I know a lot of people don't like that, but it's cool.
Yeah,
you know,
man.
People like the underdog.
Yeah, exactly. Like keep giving them encouragement. And again, I think it comes down to one of those things. It's like what you went through with the heat press. It's going through the process of using it, realizing how it works and how it doesn't work, so that once you've like grown and build your skills into the screen press, you're like, okay, like now I understand what separates this from this, and being able to share that with other people and, you know, be like, you can do that. It's going to give you this, but if you do this, it's going to give you something completely different.
Yeah.
And, you know, just understanding that value of that.
Yeah. And that's how, to be honest, that's how we kind of grew like SelfMade, especially the store and the screen printing process, is like we wanted to just be super informative with our clients and the people we worked with. And like we wanted them to understand it. And like once we explained things to them and we taught them about the screen printing process, like throughout the sales process, we found that like they weren't hesitant to pay certain prices. You know, they weren't hesitant to pay the extra $1 per print or whatever the case was, because we told them we could do X, Y, and Z to make it that much better, you know? But it's one of those things where, you know, unless that knowledge is passed on, you know, you really can't, you can't have it. You know, like the funniest thing in the industry is like, it goes back and forth. It's like, you see memes for it too. It's like somebody comes into your store and they're like, yeah, I want this crazy print, blah, 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 6 colors, whatever the case is. And you're like, yeah, how many do you want? And they're like, 1. And you're like, yo, okay. And so what we do is super funny is like, well, all right, no problem. We'll do the 1 for you. And then we send them an estimate, and it'll be like, for that 1 shirt, you're looking at like between $300 and $500 or like something like that, right?
Yeah.
And they'll be like, what? Like the best is when they come back and they're super pissed off. And they're like, what, that much money? Like, I can't believe you. Like, you really think you're out here trying to rob people, like all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. I just want 1 shirt, right? And I get so excited when I see those come in, those emails. I'm like, yes. I was like, thank you. I was like, cool.
Can't wait to respond to this one.
Yeah, I was like, crack my fingers. And I'm like, all right. So, well, it's unfortunate that this is out of your price range. You know, we have plenty of clients that understand the value in which we're bringing to this product with our process and our expertise in this art. And it's like, if you want, we have a number of people that we can suggest you to for this type of process if you're looking for a cheaper process. But if for some reason, you know, your budget becomes a little bigger and you can afford us at that point, we'd love for you to come back. You know? And it's like a little like, yeah, it's kind of petty, but at the same time, it's like, I'm just trying to make you hip. Like, yo, the process is no joke. And I'll talk about it too in the response too. I'll add like, you know, like you need us to make 6 screens, regardless that you're doing 1 shirt. Like, I got to do the same setup process, or they have to do the same setup process as if we were doing 50 shirts. That's why if you were to get 50, it's cheaper than getting 1, you know? So, but yeah, just educating people is a big thing, you know?
It's understanding it. It's understanding the process. It's like, again, you know, I always use the music reference, you know, whatever you're using, there's value and knowledge that has gone into that. You know, it's like, actually, I'll use this reference even better. I love this reference. The tattoo artist is, you know, you have people that will charge you $50 for a tattoo, and then you have people that will charge you $500 for a tattoo. But what you're paying for in part is the 20 year. If you're paying somebody for $500, is you're paying the 20 years that they learned all that knowledge to be that $500 tattoo person, and also what you're gonna get out of it versus that person that you're gonna pay $50 to get the, you know, the little scribbly line on your arm that you think is gonna be cool, or you can get like the dragon tattoo for $500 and look super dope and last and not, you know, thicken out over time, and you know the lines are straight and everything else. You know, the screen print is straight versus somebody who just uses the heat press for $50, and you're just like, cheap price, awesome. And then the shirt only lasts like 2 months.
So that's why, like, shirts, you always want to come to SelfMade because you got Zach and Cody, and then tattoos, you want to go right to Cody. You know, Cody's a tattoo apprentice right now over at Grand Flourish in Brockton. He's crushing it. They just had tattoo convention this weekend.
Oh, I saw that too.
But yeah, you know, like that's the funny thing with him is that's one of my best friends. He's my favorite artist. Excuse me. And it's funny because he's growing so fast through the tattooing aspect of it, and people are like, oh, like you just started and stuff like that. I'm like, yo, this boy has been crushing the art game for years. Like, you really think this is based on just him starting tattooing? It's like, no, the tattooing was just like a little spark to set him off on like how to, you know, make some money and do it like with that, if that's more direct than doing paintings and stuff like that. But, you know, like he's in a position where it shows is like, you know, what you're paying for is not just like how long he's been tattooing, you're paying for how long he's been an artist, you know, and he's been one of the top dogs for a while. So it's like, that's what it comes down to. And it's cool because, you know, I was gonna say too, when you're saying like you're also paying for like the support and belief of a person, you know, and like that I like to say you're paying for that relatability too, you know, like it's funny because I used to get mad too. I'm not gonna lie, I'd get mad with like my cousins, especially they're young, you know, they're like early 20s females, so you know they love posting the new Drake album. Oh, Drake did this.
Right.
Did you see Drake was at this party? Let me just post a picture of him on my story, right?
Yeah.
But like, I'm their cousins and I got no love, and I think I'm pretty cool.
Yeah,
you know?
right. You're like, what the hell, man? Come on.
It's one of those things though where I feel like part of maturing is understanding, you know, why I felt that way, and like. The reason why I felt that way is because I was like, you know, oh, like they should be showing me love. I'm their cousin, whatever the case is, right? But the reason why it's easier for them to do stuff like that opposed to like do something like that for me, and it goes not just for them, like anybody, friends, family, all that type of stuff, is because like what they're really posting is the relatability aspect of it, you know, and like that was one thing that I had to understand is like, oh yeah, I'm super cool, but like this person doesn't relate to me, so why are they gonna show me love, right? You know, so it's like, but like when you understand that, it's more, it goes back to that appreciation thing. It's like, all right, I appreciate that now, because it's like, all right, you know, they're posting the picture of the party or the picture of the new album because they can relate to that, you know, whether it's the lyrics they want to relate to or that experience, you know, me flipping a squeegee upside down and then printing a t-shirt, and not a lot of people are going to be like, oh yeah, dude, I can't wait to do that this weekend. Yeah, exactly. It's like, so I get that. But in the screen printing industry, people will see that stuff and they'll be like, oh damn, that's dope. Or like if you're a clothing brand, you'll see it and you'll be like, damn, how do you do that? Like I want my next drop to have that effect, you know? So it's just like I said, going back to appreciating like who your viewers are, you know, and I think that's one thing too that, you know, we're seeing the appreciation grow because a lot of the viewers are actually people in the industry doing it that we're seeing, like we talked about earlier. But it's cool because like if you can understand that, like I always tell people, like Instagram helped me immensely with getting to where I am in screen printing, because I just understood I had to stay consistent, show people that this is what I do every day, and like I'm not gonna stop, and then I can do that. And then but it's the same thing as like when you can understand who's viewing you every day, like who's watching your stuff, you can like you focus more so on like your own journey, because you'll see who keeps watching, who doesn't keep watching, and who's taking from it, you know, like those people that are like, you know, they're DMing you like, you know, yo, keep going at it, or yo, you're really inspiring, or like this helped me out with what I was doing, you know, or it leads to the point where like now my favorite thing is I get that text or I get the call where it's like, yo, you got a second? Like I'm going through something with the print and I need your advice on it, and I'm like, hell yeah,
like, dope, I've been waiting for
I'm like, I'm telling everybody, I'm like, yo, just hit me up, you know, we're good, like we got this, like like just it's cool because like it's mutual respect, but it also builds your own confidence, you know, and when you want to help people, it like works. Like one of my favorite quotes I just found like recently, and it became my favorite, and it was like when you become a service to others, you become legendary. And it's cool because it's so true. It's like, you know, people will think about you when, you know, you can be of service to them, you can help them and be of need. So it's like really cool to get to the point where it's like, especially in screen printing, oh, I have a problem, all right, let me call Zach, you know. It's like dope, yo. And it's like I look at it as that is like, I want to aspire to get that on all levels, you know. All right, we have an art problem, all right, let's call the gym for artists, you know. We have a branding problem or screen printing problem, you know, let's call SelfMade or let's call Print Plugs, you know. So it's cool because it's, like I said, it goes back to that appreciation aspect where you appreciate the fact that like, all right, these are the people that appreciate what I'm putting out, they take from it, so let me be a part of that, opposed to, like we were talking about earlier, your lifestyle isn't relatable. So.
And it shows that value that you have too, you know. And then people just, and you know, again, going into explaining to people what the process of it, like you're showing them the value of like what they're getting. So then it's just like, it's not only just the person, but like they're bringing, you guys are bringing that value to the table. It's just not people that are just trying to, you know, swindle you out of a bunch of money and take all your money and rob you blind. It's there's so much more to it, which, you know, we've been talking about this whole time. There's so much more to the process, and this is what we're bringing, and this is why we do what we do, and you know, charge what we charge, whatever it is, you know, because there's value in it, and like, here it is, you know, we're not just trying to keep it to ourselves, like here's why.
And the way I like one of the things that was funny, I was it was a nice drive. I love long drives because I get to think and like process my thoughts. So like one of the thoughts I was thinking about, especially in this whole planning stage, is I'm always trying to like recheck myself on like who's that person that I want to be, you know, and like what is that person's lifestyle like? What is their consistency like? Like, you know, what's their day to day like? All that stuff. And it was funny because one of the things I was thinking about is like, I always go back to like kind of what we were just touching upon is like, who's going to be that person to help and like help people out, show them the ways and stuff like that. And I always compare it to like, who would I have liked, you know, like who would have helped me a lot? Like, what are the things that, you know, struggled or whatever the case is, you know. And I tell people all the time I'm super blessed and I'm fortunate where like a lot of the people that I learned from, like whether it was on YouTube or, you know, in person or whatever the case is, I've been able to develop relationships with her where not only, you know, were they able to help me more, but I can consider them friends and family to the point where like I can understand them on like another level of like, all right, this is how they did it or this is why they did it and like all that. So, and this is how their lifestyle is, you know, so taking bits and pieces, you know, like one of my guys, like one of the things that I try to take from him is like his self-discipline is like insane, like crazy, you know, and like I'm over here like I can't even, it's about to be Halloween season. I'm already struggling with the candy, dude, and I'm like trying so hard. I'm like, yo,
gotta have it.
And I'm like, what's this one piece? I just ran like a few miles. Like this one piece isn't gonna do anything, right?
I'll be good.
Yeah, I'll be fine. And it's like, and then you have somebody else on the other hand where like their self-discipline is like to a point where it's like, you know, they can sit at a dinner with a bunch of people with the best food like in the area and they're just drinking their water.
I was just gonna say that they're just like, I'll just have this water.
Yeah, and I'm just like, praise you, man. Like, praise you. Like that's some dope stuff. But like going back to aspiring, you know, like that, like what are the things that I'm trying to aspire and be as a person? So with that, it's like I'm always trying to think, you know, like what does that person do? What is that person's lifestyle?
How do I need to get there? What do I need to do to get there?
Exactly. And then going back to what we talked about is like, am I going to stick to the boring route of success or am I going to let all the fun distractions come in and slow me up?
Yeah, exactly. It's tough. It's tough.
It's but it's, you gotta love it. You know?
You have to,
because we're all
do it.
Yeah, exactly. Don't do it. And then at the same thing, we're all going through the same stuff. You know, we're all going through the same distractions. We all see the same commercials. You know, we all are dealing with the same stuff. So, yeah.
It is what it is, man.
You gotta love it. It is what it is, and you just gotta do it. Just like Nike says, just do it. Man.
Facts.
But yeah.
Well, man, I really appreciate this. This has been super dope.
Hell yeah.
It's been awesome having you. How can people kind of connect with you? Are there any things that the brand is doing that you can kind of let people know that's coming up just to share, and how can they connect with you?
So you can connect with us by going to theselfmadedesigns.com or checking us out on Instagram, The Self-Made Designs. You can check me out on Instagram at The Can of Corn. You know, check us out on there. If you're ever in the Quincy area, right outside of Boston, we're open Tuesday through Saturday, 12 to 6. The team's always in there rocking. You can come in, see some live screen printing, buy some dope gear. You know, like I was saying, we're on the works of getting a popcorn machine in there. So if you like popcorn, come on by. We also have the Gym for Artists. We're very excited to be opening our first public location, which is going to be located not too far from the original location, but in Weymouth, Mass. So we're really excited for that. We're hoping to, you know, start activating it within the next couple of months and then be open by the start of next year. So everything's kind of moving along, you know, and it's a very exciting process. We definitely encourage people to stay in tune with what we're doing, checking in. Like I said earlier, I've been traveling everywhere, so there's a lot of cool things that have been popping up. But you know, we're here. You know, like I said, we just wanted to create some platforms, which we've done, and you know, now we just want to be examples too of like how to get to that next level. So feel free to check us out on all those things. Continue to follow the support local artist movement and all that stuff, and you know, just stay in touch and be the best version of you.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again, man. I really appreciate it. Thanks to everybody that's tuned in. Check this out. Make sure you follow us everywhere, as we just said. Appreciate everybody that's listened. But until next time, my name is Jay Faith. This is Zach from SelfMade. We'll catch y'all next time. What's up?
Hey.